Hello, everyone, and welcome to this SpunkGo webinar. I trust that you are all well, and I hope you can all hear me. And I am Ella from the Kenyan chapter, and today's speaker is Mariam Polding. She founded her own business, Back to Basics, and you guys should definitely go and check out the Instagram. It looks like a lot of fun. And she founded a girls' tennis academy in Saudi Arabia. She is also a trained lawyer and has been recognized for her philanthropy. These are just but a few of her achievements, and it's my great pleasure to welcome Mariam to talk about her experiences as a woman entrepreneur in Saudi Arabia. If you have any questions, Q&A will be done through the chat feature after presentation where she'll answer all your questions. And a little bit about SpunkGo. It is an all-girls global student organization, and our proceeds all go to charity. And we're being crowdfunded via ifundwomen.com, and any contribution that you make will be highly appreciated. And with that, the floor is now yours, Mariam.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a wonderful opportunity to be here with you ladies and this organization and the really great work that you do. It's really a privilege and an honor. So thank you very much for inviting me to come share my journey and experience with you. I would like to share the screen. I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience as an entrepreneur in Saudi Arabia, a little bit about that journey, how that started, the current landscape, the challenges and the opportunities. Really, it comes from a growth mindset and just being open-minded and flexible. I think one of the most important things is always preparing ourselves for the unexpected. And number one, that comes with education. I'm a big believer in education and the power of education to set us free, to crumble barriers and boundaries, and to open up opportunities. As we know, we never know what will happen in the world, what we'll be faced with, challenges. So preparing and equipping ourselves with the right tools, number one, having an open mindset, and being open, compassionate, and receptive. Even though it may not be something that we have had in mind or planned, but be willing to look at the opportunity that lies within, whether adversity or challenges or whatever it is. So having said that, I would like to share my screen, please, if that's okay, if I'm allowed. Here we go. So, female entrepreneurship in Saudi Arabia, the landscape, challenges, and opportunities. A little bit about myself. Oh, sorry. I see it slightly cut off here. With a very kind introduction I've already received, but my background is in human rights law. However, when I arrived in Saudi Arabia after getting married, the landscape at that time was not really fertile for female lawyers in the human rights sector. It was still human rights law generally globally is still evolving as soft law. And that was very much the case when I moved here. There weren't accredited practicing female lawyers at that time. That has since now changed, and a lot has changed. Female law departments have opened. There are many practicing lawyers. However, through my human rights law education, it has allowed me to frame my perspective in the world and look at things differently, in the sense that I look very much at things from the impact-driven perspective and what can be done. And actually coming to Saudi Arabia was one of the most incredible things that probably could have happened to me, because every single adversity that could be imagined was there. And then very quickly you have to decide, and this is an internal decision that comes through self-reflection. Decide, am I willing to take that journey? Am I willing to accept the challenges and face whatever may come from that, whether successful or unsuccessful. Yet when they are unsuccessful, there still is success because we've learned something. We've learned either how not to do something or how something does work and can work. So it helps us reiterate the design of what we're trying to do or achieve in our lives. So through that perspective, I've always been very much into sports and athletics. So growing up, I played competitive volleyball, I played golf, tennis, and swam. So for me, sports was very much a part of my life. When I moved here and saw that there were very few opportunities for women and girls to play tennis or to play sports, for me, that kind of went against some of my core values. And it was a call to action. I said, well, I don't think it's fair to really live in a world where only half of the gender are allowed to play sports. There's no scientific basis for that. It doesn't really make any sense. And that was very quickly, I found my call to action. And through that journey, I was able to start the first gender inclusive tennis academy in Saudi Arabia back in 2012, which we have grown. We've had a lot of different participants achieve playing a competitive college, playing for their high school teams abroad, and gone on to junior competitive circuits. So alhamdulillah, by the grace of God, I believe that we have achieved, and we're still looking to develop and evolve and grow. Also, we have had, through that, I noticed very quickly that tennis is only one part of the equation. And this is what led me to look into gymnastics and parkour, because what I found is that because at that time, girls' sports education was not prevalent in the school system, in the government school systems, that we had a lot of challenges with children's agility and movement and space relations. So between their person and the tennis ball and the tennis, for example, or their ability to move laterally or horizontally on a court. And I thought, wow, we really need to develop this because it's really important. And generally, globally, children are spending less time outside, especially in recent times, in the recent challenging times with the pandemic. So this doesn't allow for opportunities of climbing and running and jumping and all these very natural skills that are very critical to motor skill development and children's development. So what happened from that is now there was an opportunity to look at the parkour and look at acrobatics. And that's how that was born, Back to Basics, in 2017. And we're slowly expanding the program to encompass other sports and athletics where we see that there are indeed a lot of need to develop children's mobility and motor skills. So the gym is actually for children and students. And from there, I've gotten into technology and science programs for children, building strategic partnerships with world repute institutions to bring those skills and knowledges to the youth of Saudi Arabia. The blessing is that a lot of these things are now virtual, so we are no longer limited by our geographies to access this. We are only limited by our digital access to technology, which is certainly a great global challenge. So that's just a little bit about me. And let's see. So the landscape in Saudi Arabia, challenges and opportunities. Women's participation in entrepreneurship in Saudi Arabia dates back to the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, with his first wife, Khadija, who was herself very well known as an entrepreneur and a very successful merchant woman. So we have this history and practice in Saudi Arabia through the Silk Trade route that goes along the Red Sea, from the ports of Jeddah all around the Arabian Peninsula. We are in this land, we've had a lot of familiarity with cultural diversity, with trade, and with mercantilism. So this is something that has been very thriving among the community for a very long time. However, over time, women's participation and access to the more visual facing, perhaps corporate structural jobs, has not been so prevalent due to certain practices such as whether it's segregation or limited access to certain educational certifications. However, on account of segregation as well, they've actually managed to reach some of the top jobs in the fields of that were open to them. So women presidents of segregated universities and boards, and medical schools, for example. So you see that a lot, and you also see a parallel entrepreneur stream among women as well. Things that are done while caretaking for the family, and done from home. So catering businesses that are done from home, goods that are made from home and sold, which actually now in current times are perfect business opportunities, because they're self-made, and they're self-created. So that is very promising. Also, recent reforms to laws such as mobility, the woman's ability to drive, which was just happened 2 years ago, which is really incredible, because prior to that, in Saudi Arabia, we were one of the few countries in the world where women were not allowed to drive. However, that's changed, and so has women's access to jobs, because on account of that, she no longer had to be dependent on spending money to a driver to be able to take her around. Now she was able to have that mobility, for example. Also, educational developments and reforms, such as certification in physical education, and law, which weren't available, are now being reformed, and a lot of different practices are being open to women in respective fields. Again, going back to mobility, recently a law was passed where Saudi women who used to have to get a permission in order to travel no longer require that permission. And that is a huge stride, because now Saudi women are no longer bounded by their geography. They can apply for jobs abroad, and have access internationally. So that's also very promising. Now, when we look at the certain challenges, some of these challenges would look like shifting cultural attitudes to women. For example, in the workplace, the integration of men and women in the workplace, working alongside one another in collaboration, rather than entirely segregated, will certainly, like in any global economy, have its own challenges that will be overcome through very aware, evolving, and agile human resources practices, and also a cultural addressing of certain things that can arise. So a mental preparation and a cultural preparation for these kinds of sensitive issues. So I think really addressing that and being empathetic to that changing environment is very important. In terms of opportunities, because on account of a lot of the recent reforms, you now see a lot of new industries opening up to women. We have more women in the education system in Saudi Arabia and studying abroad for higher education, for masters and PhDs, than Saudi men. So you have a lot more women entering the workforce. The population of Saudi Arabia is female rich. So that again means that an integration of women into the workforce in various fields will become greater and greater with each year and each day. So that's also very promising. And what that also means in terms of a new norm that we're all currently experiencing and sharing through is that new technologies, new emerging markets are opening up, and they are also being more responsive to how to grow during these times, these critical times, and how to create, how to coagulate these sorts of latent demographics that exist globally. And usually when you look at a latent demand in any industry, the industries, all experts always look at women and children, because women tend to be most of the household decision makers generally, especially when you have a dual income household. When you reach to the heart of the woman, you're reaching to the heart of the community and to the heart of the family, especially where it concerns her children and posterity. And this has a very huge impact on building equality and how we change and shift those cultural attitudes generally. So I wanted to share something that I learned recently in London Business School, where I just graduated from last month, Ikaigai, which is a wonderful Japanese concept meaning a reason for being. And what I love about it is that it's that we're all on this shared journey of Ikaigai. And it's kind of finding the way around through a lot of self-reflection to coalesce what we love with what the world needs, with what we can be paid for, and also what we're good at. So it's really bringing out all of these separate components together and synthesizing them in a way that makes sense to us. Because through self-reflection, through the passions, the things that we do like doing, the things that we do enjoy, the things that we do believe are important, the passion will support our resilience through any challenges or adversity that we may be faced with. Because there will always be challenges in any environment, in any society, in any country. And our personal challenge will be how much effort we're willing to put forth to see that change. How much do we believe in the vision that we see to achieve it, and what we will take to get there. So that's a little bit about Ikaigai, and I highly recommend that everyone takes the opportunity every single day to start their day with their mission and purpose, and reiterating with their own mantra, and ending the day with reflecting on, did my actions match my convictions? What happened today that I was happy about, that I wasn't so happy about? What can I do tomorrow, maybe slightly differently, that will help me get further to my purpose through my passions? So I would really love to hear from all of you, and hear your questions, and allow us time to share, and for me to also learn from you. So that's the end of my presentation, but hopefully the beginning of our conversation. And I would love to open the floor up to some questions. Oh, okay. So I have to check the chat. Thank you. So the first question, did you ever feel it was an issue as a woman to set up your own businesses? You know what is incredibly interesting? I think that, first of all, I have to be thankful to God and to my husband and to my family, who are very, very supportive. And I do believe that, you know, this is about a partnership in life in general, and as we navigate our way through the world. And I was very fortunate to have someone very supportive alongside me that helped me every step of the way. And I do believe that certainly it would have been astronomically much more challenging if I didn't have that kind of support. But funnily enough, there is something in the cultural practice, perhaps contrary to popular belief, but women are held in very high regard in Arab culture and in Arab society. So when we go to government offices, it does actually serve as a benefit that they're separate, because we get taken care of in a way that is respective of our needs. We get addressed with respect, and we get supported along every step of the way. And I have to say that the Saudi government has been very forward in moving to a digital platform. For example, we can pay our electric, our phone, our bills. We can set up CRs now. CRs are commercial registries, and what is needed in order to set up a business here. And you can do that very quickly online, and that is gender neutral. So it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman, you can do it. And I think that that's the case with many things, as long as there's a mindset. So I always go back to growth mindset, because if you want to see the challenges, it doesn't mean that we ignore that they're there. Certainly that they're there, but we also have to be respective that that if we're experiencing the challenges, chances are there are many similar to us that are also going through that too. And those that manage to prevail are the ones who really persevere and try to find ways around that. And that's, I guess, the beauty of entrepreneurship, because there is no set roadmap. There is no way to do this and that. I set up a tennis academy over 10 years ago. And when I try to organize women playing on public courts or on hotel courts, to this day, even when I have official documentation from the government saying that I am allowed to play as a woman, I am allowed to host something as a woman on these tennis courts, I still get rejected. And it's very easy to become angered by that, infuriated, but that's not the kind of, you know, fight I want to have. I'm Patience is key, and taking it step by step is also key. And soon enough, we will all be playing on tennis courts, and I hope we'll have a wonderful event for SpunkGo on tennis courts across Saudi Arabia and back to basics. Very, very soon, we'll invite you all here. I hope that answered your question, but so there are issues setting up a business, but now the process has been streamlined, is a short answer. What was the biggest challenge you faced when trying to set up your business? Funnily enough, setting it up was not the challenging part. It was the implementation and operational part. Trying to set up a sports academy as a female, for example, I would be even in the acrobatics and in the parkour, we have all male coaches. We can't recruit female talent here because there hasn't been a system that has developed and educated women in physical education long enough to develop an expertise to be able to teach. So we're very reliant on international recruitment. And a lot of my time is spent nurturing and building relationships with global partners to be able to continue that stream of recruitment and expertise. Meanwhile, we're also setting up mentoring programs locally to help mentor. So one of the biggest challenges would be getting the right skilled talent in the sports fields here locally, especially among women, and then being rejected or impeded by facilities to allow access for women. those two have and still continue to be some of the biggest challenges. Did I face disappointment at the start that maybe enough girls didn't sign up? How did you overcome this and continue building a successful venture? On the contrary, we never ever faced a challenge with women and girls signing up for extracurricular sports and activities. There is a huge demand. There is a huge latent demand here. There are very talented women, and the only impediments to their talent and the progression of their talent, achieving a higher level or global visibility of success, is their access and opportunity to tournaments, to local, building that strength of the local community that has a strong infrastructure, that they can display their talent, that they can show it, and that they could live and earn through their talent. So I only see an increase there among young girls. How did my course in London Business School help evolve your ideas? Well, it was it was instrumental. I'm so grateful to that institution. I'm grateful to my cohort, my colleagues who I've learned so much from. It helped me evolve in my thinking, in my design thinking. This is where having the right skill set is one component. Having a good attitude towards being open and learning is another. And understanding when you start a project, especially in entrepreneurship, you know where you want to go, like you know the end result. So you start with the end in mind and you work your way backwards. And then that's a whole design process that I felt London Business School equipped me with the tools to be able to start to dissect on how to implement an idea. Where do you start? Before the implementation, where do you start? And how do you progress? And also building teams, because nothing can be achieved alone. That's very, very critical to success. Is building a strong team, is developing a support network and people around you who want to see you succeed, because it's often, and to have honest conversations, and also self-reflection, to know more about yourself and what you're willing to do and push through to achieve your goals. So again, my background was in human rights law, politics, and languages. So I wasn't very well prepared to start a business coming to Saudi Arabia, nor for the challenges that I would face having grown up most of my life in London and in the States. But again, that's why I share that having the right mindset, you're already 90% there, because skills can be learned. But if you have the right mindset and attitude, that's really the key, because you will build those relationships. But first and foremost, you'll build a relationship with yourself and know where you want to go and what you're willing to do to get there, what your principles and values are, and the kind of change you want to see or be a part of. Let's see another. How is the participation of women in the field of medicine? Oh, it's huge, because actually that is one of the few fields that has always been very gender integrated. Hospitals are not segregated, neither are the medical schools. So there is a very high representation rate of female medics across all technical specialties in the medical industry. And I recommend, if there is someone particular who asks that question, who is interested in the medical field, to investigate further. For sure, there's definitely high representation. Did I feel my business school education has made a difference to how I will now conduct my business going forward? Certainly, as I mentioned previously, it helped me understand also the discipline, the hard work, and gave me a really strong toolkit going forward. I'm a big proponent of education. I think that if you feel that you are lacking in certain skills, it's up to you to try to get those skills, and to find a way. I applied for a scholarship, for example, so I received a partial scholarship. There are scholarships out there in the world. There are institutions and organizations, great things like what SpunkGo are doing as a collaborative entity. And I think there are many organizations that work very hard to make sure that women succeed and get the access to the education that they need. But it's really down to you and being proactive about that. Did I ever feel that it was harder to set up a business and that people did not take my business ideas seriously because you are a woman? Yes, of course, all the time. You know, uh, that can happen amongst women as well, being receivers of the idea. So it's not just a man versus woman sort of thing at all. That goes across regardless of gender. And I think that's why really working and developing your soft skills, public speaking skills, debate, confidence, self-confidence building, when you self-reflect and know yourself, and you are willing to not allow others to push you, shift you according to what they believe is good for you. This is very important. Also, your ability to articulate your ideas, to look at the data, for example, and back up your idea. Why is something a good idea? Well, there's a gut feeling, and that's a huge part of it. And there are also other tools, right? Like the market research or your personal experiences, and getting the right things in place so that all the naysayers that may come and try to impede you from growth or from stopping you from achieving your goal, that you can come to and have a very respectful and honest conversation that is based on facts and not just whims. And this is how you convert those that may not have belief in what you're doing, or believe in what you're doing. And then again, sometimes it's a really good thing to learn how to ignore as well. Listen, but sometimes ignore as well. So receive the information and be willing to let it go, if it's either if it's hurtful or if it doesn't strongly align. Um, let's see. Is there a dress code an issue for women's tennis? Is funding available for someone who wants to start business in Saudi Arabia? Dress code, that's an interesting one. So recently, another one of these wonderful reforms that I had mentioned was that it's no longer imperative to wear an abaya in Saudi Arabia. It was declared a choice. However, it was always a cultural practice. It was never codified in law, but it just became a cultural practice. But now there has been an official statement that women don't need to wear the abaya. But you still have many that do, because it's a habit, and it's for cultural sensitivities, because even as part of our culture and our we are more modestly dressed in our country anyway, and many feel more comfortable continuing with that. So it's a choice now. So that's the most important thing, that it's a choice, and it's up to those who wish to decide for themselves. Is there funding available for someone who wants to start business in Saudi Arabia? To answer specifically to that question, I can't reply on the technicalities, but there certainly is huge government impetus around certain fields and strategic partnerships in building thriving strategic partnerships with others, with the government, for example, or with other private entities. And a lot of what exists in Saudi Arabia, a lot of businesses rely heavily on global expertise and these strategic partnerships. In terms of funding, yes, there is various types of funding and development funds available for that. As a woman in Saudi Arabia, have I ever felt personally discriminated against? oh, you're moving to Saudi next month. Well, welcome. You'll have to connect and get in touch. I think discrimination happens everywhere globally. So I don't think it's particular to here. I think that you do find that generally the culture and society are accommodating to women and women's needs. There is a certain empathy, even in the business culture, that I've experienced here, that I haven't experienced elsewhere in the Western world, for example. I've noticed in different corporate environments globally, there's less an understanding or empathy for women as mothers, as their needs to their family. And something that I have noticed here is that they highly regard that the women have, even if they have a professional job outside of the home, they also have a professional job inside of the home, which is running the home, and should be actually paid probably double than what they receive outside of the home. And there is a much more understanding of that, what I have noticed in my personal experience. So let's say, if you had to create your business afresh, what would you have done differently? That's a very good question. Well, there's a lot of things because I've learned so much. And I think we all learn from all of our errors. But I think, again, going back to London Business School, uh, I took a lot of courses on leadership and organizational development. And I think for me, one of the most striking things was, how you get to build a community, and how important it is to build a community and to build that stakeholder buy-in among your team, among your clients, and even among your family members, because harnessing the compassion and harnessing everyone being aligned and on the same page is very important, because if you're not aligned at the home and you're trying to achieve something outside of the home, it becomes 10 times more difficult. And if outside of the home, they're not aligned to understanding your values and your needs and what those mean, again, it's really hard to be able to juggle both, and to create a sort of balanced life where you take care of yourself, you meet your needs, and you also respond professionally to the needs around you as well. How extensive is social media in Saudi Arabia? Extremely. They have one of the highest penetration rates, I think, globally. Digitally, there's a great access across the peninsula. I think among all the GCC, Saudi Arabia has the highest penetration on YouTube. Particularly, that's the most favored medium, and Instagram. So it's very, very high, the penetration. And that's why when it comes to social media marketing, particularly, that is one of the strongest tools. So the outdated sort of like email campaigns and things like that, those are somewhat, they still work, but it depends which demographic age group that a business is targeting. But certainly WhatsApp is one of the most favored mediums, of course, for communication. But Instagram and YouTube are very, very strong. Let's see, how can one develop public speaking skills, self-confidence, and be able to articulate their ideas in the best possible way? I think that takes practice. I think that also comes down to perhaps watching tutorials, but also watching speakers you admire, and watching and kind of breaking down how they articulate themselves. What does their body language look like? Do they make eye contact? How do they move? What are they talking about? What are they emphasizing on when they're speaking? Are they speaking clearly? Do they have passion about what they're talking about? I work with organizations that build these soft skills, because when you look at the nature of the economy and the future of work from a macroeconomic perspective, and there's a great fear that a lot of jobs that currently exist will no longer exist in the future. Having said that, there are also a lot of other jobs that will be created and will exist, that now perhaps are not as prevalent, and a lot of those come down to human skills. So these soft skills in character development, and psychology, the ability to connect with others, to empathize, to have compassion, and lead through compassion, will become even stronger, especially from also a mental and health well-being perspective. Those will also, as we're seeing now during the current climate, are really great, getting greater notice and are becoming in greater demand. So there is an organization that I work with called Richer Education. I'll share it in the chat. And one of the things that, one of the programs that we have is called public speaking and debate. And it is phenomenal. My kids do it and they love it, because the way that it's structured is that the children or the youth, ages from about 7 to 14, they'll be given a subject matter. And this is something you can even do with your friends, with your family, with your parents at the dinner table. So one of the topics was testing on animals. Are you pro or against? And then you actually have to argue both sides, and you learn how to articulate your argument and how to structure it from both a feeling and a fact-based perspective. So I think that if you are concerned and would like to develop your public speaking skills and develop that aspect within your soft skill repertoire, I would recommend that you come up with a few topics that you think are interesting and might not know a lot about, and you can do your own argument for and against and practice with yourself in the mirror. Or, which is a bit more engaging, get one friend or two friends or your parents and do it with them. And you all debate the same topic in a very respectful way. You set the ground rules from the beginning. You give yourself a time allocation, maybe 1 minute per presentation, and then you exchange. And then you have to do the opposite side of the argument. So this is something that will help develop, and it's really fun. So some of the topics that we've done are fossil fuels. Are they good or bad? Space pollution, which I hadn't realized was such a grave environmental concern, that a lot of these discarded satellites in space are orbiting around space and actually serve as a hazard to astronauts that are exploring in space, because there are tools and nails that are orbiting and can slash their astronaut suits, for example. And so it's very interesting. I will share the link just for anyone who might be interested to have a look at it. And what I will try to do is organize a special discount code for anyone from SpunkGo as well. So I think that might be it for today. I'm not sure if there are any other questions, anything else that you would like me to cover, but it's been such a pleasure being here with you, and I hope I've managed to shed a little bit of light of some of the challenges and opportunities of doing business in Saudi Arabia. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or through Back to Basics. Anyone who's in Saudi and would like to connect, I'd love to hear from you. And it's really been a pleasure. And thank you very much for inviting me to be part of this. And I wish everyone the best of luck. And I look forward to contributing to your organization and watching you grow and sharing in your growth.
Thank you so much, Mariam Polding, for being our guest in today's webinar. Thank you for answering our questions. Thank you so much. I'd also like to thank our audience. We had people from Kazakhstan, New York, Congo, Kenya, and the UAE. We're really grateful that you set aside your time to come and join our webinar. Also, if you are interested in future SpunkGo webinars, you can visit our website and you'll be automatically updated on them. I have been your host, Ella Mudeu from Kenya. Bye.